Hello. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm feeling very stoic today. All right. Very excited because we have from the amazing Dr. Tom's room, we have Vicky Zhang to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we will get right back in to our book, Song for a Whale, with chapters 7 and 8, read by our own Media Center Tech, Mrs. Claudia Cordova. So, everyone, get ready, get set. It's time for an amazing day. Have a great one, everybody.
Good morning, scholars. My name is Vicky, and today I'll be leading you for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand, take your caps off. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, scholars. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone. Are we excited to get back into the book? Song for a Whale. All right, let's start off with chapter 7. Tristan wasn't home yet when I got back there, but more importantly, neither was Mom. I'd have a chance to work on my radios before she came in to lecture me. I ran upstairs to my room where my radio collection filled shelves across 3 walls. I'd have to add a new shelf soon. Tools and electronic parts and wires covered the workbench I'd made out of an old door. My mom said it looked like a robot factory exploded in my room, but I knew where to find everything. Most people were surprised when they found out I fixed old radios, but that was because most people don't notice the sound moves. If it's strong enough, it can move anything. Its waves can break glass or shake the ground or deafen a whale. Even if they're not strong sound waves, tremble radios too. That was why I didn't need to hear one to know if it was working. With my hand on the speaker, the vibrations would let me know if a radio was playing music, or crackling with static, or sitting there like a box of rocks. For me, listening to the radios was never the point. Each one of those sitting on my shelves was a reminder of something I've done right. They weren't working until I got my hands into them. Whenever I fixed something, I felt like I'd won a contest. I sat down next to my bed and touched the side of the Philco 38-690. It was a cabinet radio, like I did every day when I got home and every morning before I left. Of all the antique radios in my collection, this was my favorite. Since it was almost 4 feet tall, it sat on the floor instead of on a shelf like the others. It was from the 1930s, and in my professional opinion, the best radio ever made. Only 3,000 ever existed. For a long time, I'd only seen the 38-690 in pictures. Then one day, there it was, behind the counter at Mr. Gunner's antique shop. My eyes almost fell out of my head when Mr. Gunner said he was going to throw it away. Sure, it was in rough shape, really rough. But I couldn't let him get rid of it. I asked if I could take it as payment for a repair I'd brought him. He said that wouldn't be fair, so he paid me and gave me the radio. Then I sort of felt like I was stealing from an old man. Even though he might change his mind, I told Mr. Gunner what that Philco would be worth if I restored it. Maybe he didn't know what he had. A cloud of dust flew up when he patted the radio, scratched wood cabinet. If you do all the work this thing is going to need, you deserve to keep it. For the next 5 months, I worked to bring the Philco back from the dead. When I finally finished, static hummed against my palms. With the smallest turn of the dial, the smooth rhythm of music flowed from the speakers, vibrating the whole cabinet of the radio. If anyone had asked why I was sitting there crying with my arms around a radio, I wouldn't have known how to explain it. I couldn't stop thinking about how many years it had sat quietly collecting dust and how close it had come to being thrown in the garbage because no one thought it was worth listening to. Usually, I left it on overnight, even though that would wear out faster. While I was in bed, I could reach over and feel the vibrations against my hand and fall asleep, wondering who was singing and who was listening. The floor shook a little, announcing Mom coming up the stairs. I sat there, waiting to find out what my punishment would be. Probably I wouldn't be allowed to use my phone or visit my friend Wendell for a while. When the door opened, I turned to her and signed. I know, serious trouble, but she pointed around my room before I could explain that what had happened at school was my fault. All of this, she said, is out of here. What? Get some sheets and towels and wrap them up if you want, but as soon as Tristan gets home, you're going to help us carry everything out to the garage. I gripped the edge of the Filco as I could keep it from leaving my side. No, that isn't fair. You said you'd stay out of trouble. We warned you about this. I didn't know you meant I'd lose my radios. I waved my arms in my collection. I didn't know you'd take everything. You're being dramatic. It isn't everything you have. Anyway, she added before I could interrupt her, we have to do something to get your attention. Maybe you'll take us seriously when we say you have to learn to get along with people and follow the rules. That girl's parents are really upset with the school. It's not the school's fault or my fault. They should be mad at themselves for raising an annoying daughter. I can't always be someone else's fault. If people annoy you, you have to figure out a better way to deal with it. Easy for you to say. There isn't a better way when everyone ignores you. Warm tears dampen my fingertips. When my signing hands touched my face, I wiped my hands on my jeans. Just then, I remember the Admiral set. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about it. Mom's announcement about taking my radios must have short circuited my brain. I have to pick up a TV from the junkyard. Hopefully, she wouldn't ask when I'd be at Moe's, but I had to risk it. I have to pick up a TV from the. Oh, sorry. No, we're not going out to get you a new thing to add to the exact collection you're grounded from. You have enough junk anyway. It didn't matter that I had a lot of junk. I didn't have that particular item. I tried to explain it, but Mom turned to leave. The conversation was over. Before she walked out, I waved my hand to get her attention. When can I have my stuff back? A little at a time, starting Monday. What will I do all weekend? You can visit Wendell, and we'll go to Grandma's on Saturday. You're not grounded from everything, just your electronics, which was everything. When Tristan got home, he told me I didn't have to help carry my things out. He knew how much it would hurt. Mom and I will take care of it. I shook my head as I slid one of my smaller radios into my pillowcase. That's okay, but thanks. I really didn't want to do it, but I also didn't want to miss out on one more chance to hold my radios before they were put away. After we hauled my stuff to the garage, I went back up to my room, which wasn't really my room anymore. The shelves were bare, so was the work table, which just a few hours earlier had been piled with electronic parts. A thin layer of dust outlined all that was missing. An imprint in the carpet next to my bed marked the Filco should have been. I lay down in bed and turned toward the wall so I wouldn't have to face the emptiness. Tristan came in later to check on me. I turned when he sat at the edge of the bed and touched my shoulder. You okay? I rolled onto my back. No, I will never be okay. I'm sorry. It isn't fair. I need my stuff. It's work anyway, like for Mr. Gunner. So they're grounding me from work? Which is stupid. Yeah, I told my mom that. I think they want you to hang out with people instead of radio so much. I do hang out with people. Tristan didn't respond to that. Maybe he didn't believe me. He was always doing things with his friends. It's just for a couple days. But there's this radio I really need. My mom won't let me pick it up, even if I promise not to work on it yet. Where is it? Mo's. I sat up. Will you go get it for me? Please? It looks heavy since it's in a cabinet with a TV and record player, but you're strong enough to load it into your truck. He said what looked like, All right, let's continue reading. Paragraph 6, page 36. He said what looked like, and ran a hand through his hair. Unlike me, he could do that without getting his hand stuck. He had Dad's smooth light brown hair instead of thick dark curly like my mom and me. All I got from Dad was pale skin that turned pink and more freckled in the sun, instead of Mom's, which tanned. Please, I signed again. Do you know how many vacuum tubes are in there? No idea. How many? I don't know. More than I need. I was going to look it up. Plus, tube sockets, wires, transformers, caps. Tristan laughed and threw his hands up in surrender, which is, as it happens, looks like the sign for give up. Okay, okay. But then what? You don't think Mom and Dad will notice? Hide it in the garage with everything else. Then we'll bring it up to my closet when they're not here. Okay, hold on. Be right back. He signed hold, like he was clutching something in his fist, and not by pointing an index finger up like people do all the time as if they were saying, wait a minute, and then never getting back to you. Tristan knew I hated that. After a few minutes, Tristan came back and waved to me to the doorway. Let's go. Me? Go where? I just chugged the last of the milk and then told Mom I'd go out to pick up more. I jumped up, slid into my shoes. Milk wasn't the only thing we'd be picking up. Mo was back at his usual place behind the desk in the junkyard's official trailer. How was the doctor appointment? I asked. Tristan voiced my question and Mo answered, I'm healthy as a horse. Not any horse I'd want to ride, but I wasn't going to mention that. How much for the Admiral set? Even though Tristan was there, Mo communicated with me like he always did, and he held up 2 fingers on one hand and 5 on the other. I pretended to consider the $25 offer, as if I wasn't desperate enough to pay whatever he asked. Before we left home, I grabbed 2 20s from my repair money envelope. I held up 2 fingers and on one hand and formed the other into a 0. Mo nodded and gave me a thumbs up, then followed us outside after I handed him a 20. He helped Tristan lift up the set and load it into the truck. Before hopping into the passenger seat, I shook Mo's hand and I hugged Tristan. I'd have to force myself to stop smiling when we got home so Mom wouldn't wonder why I was so happy. We were pulling into the driveway when I tapped Tristan on the shoulder and I signed, Milk! The reason for the trip, as far as Mom knew. He backed out and hurried to the gas station. You want anything? He asked when we were inside. I'm almost out of gummy worms, I answered. He squeezed my shoulder and signed, Pick out whatever you want. The hard part was when we got home. Tristan always parked in the driveway since our 2-car garage had room for only 1 car and a bunch of stuff. We slid the TV onto a flattened cardboard box and shoved it into the garage, stopping a couple times along the way to give my arms a rest. Finally, we got it safely in the corner and covered it with the garage junk. Tomorrow, it would be in my closet where it belonged, and my room wouldn't feel so empty anymore. All right, let's move on to chapter 8. The weekend of my grounding dragged by even worse than I expected. My friend Wendell was out of town with his family, so I couldn't hang out at his house. Tristan and his friend Adam had moved the TV, radio, record player to my closet. Now and then I'd open the door to take a peek, but I couldn't crack it open yet. After clearing out my room, I didn't even have a screwdriver left. Still, I felt better just knowing the Admiral sat was close by waiting for me. While lying on my bed with my phone, I searched online for the whale. Ever since Ms. Alamila had showed us that video in class, I'd been thinking about Blue 55 and the people who tried to tag him with the tracker. I couldn't remember the name of the sanctuary from the video, but it came up after a quick search about Blue 55's tagging. The Meet Our Residents page on the sanctuary's website showed a picture of each animal that lived there, along with the description. Either the sanctuary staff had found them injured or sick, or someone had called for help when they found them hurt in the water or on the beach. The animals lived either in a large sea pens or indoor pools until they were healthy enough to return to the wild. Most of the animals were birds or seals and sea lions. One dolphin they'd had to move indoors if they couldn't release them before winter hit Alaska. For some, the sanctuary would always be their home. The eagle, who was blind in one eye, couldn't hunt for food in the wild. He probably didn't understand why he couldn't fly outdoors anymore. The otter orphans had an indoor outdoor pool to swim in. They'd have to live at the sanctuary forever, too. They had lost their mothers when they were so young that they hadn't learned how to be otters. I wondered about the animals who'd been taken in when they were older and still remembered their old homes. The sanctuary staff would release them close to where they'd been found, in hopes they'd find their families. They couldn't promise it would happen, though. The released animals might have to make it on their own. At the top of a page labeled The Staff was a picture of a few people in light blue shirts with their arms around one another, smiling in front of the sanctuary. After, no, sorry, the caption of the photo said that it was the expedition team that tried to tag Blue 55 that year. After scrolling through some of the posts, I found one about the failed attempt to tag Blue 55. The tracker they wanted to put on him would collect information not just about where he swam, but other things too, like his heart rate. It would also record his song. They'd share information about him on their website if they ever did tag him. Now I really wish they'd tag him. If they shared what they recorded from that, I'd get to feel his song and heartbeat through a computer speaker. A picture showed Blue 55 arcing out of the water next to a small boat. Mounted to the front of the boat was a metal platform with railings on either side. A woman wearing a stocking cap and a green fleece jacket stood at the edge of the platform, holding a long metal pole outstretched toward the whale. It looked like she toppled over the railing and into the ocean if she leaned over any farther to reach him. The caption read, Near miss. Blue 55 takes a dive before sanctuary staffer Andy Rivera can attach a tracking device. The tracker at the end of the pole looked close enough to brush the whale's back. A grimace lined Andy's face, either from effort or disappointment. The next photo showed water cascading down Blue 55's huge tail as he started to his deep dive. Andy had been so close to him before he slipped away. Maybe she was only interested in him as a scientist, but she tried so hard to reach him. Maybe she really cared about him too. If Blue 55 followed the route he usually did, he'd be near the sanctuary soon. A new post said that the team would try again to tag him. They didn't say what they would do differently next time, so they couldn't get close enough to attach the tracker before he swam away. Maybe there was a way to get him to stick around a little longer. At the bottom of the page was a link to more information about Blue 55's communication. The article used piano keys to describe whale song frequencies. If you sit down at a piano and hit the lowest key, the very first one on the left, that plays the frequency of 27.5 hertz. That's the frequency of most baleen whale songs. They sing lower than that, too, like 20 hertz or 10 hertz. But pianos didn't have a key that played that low. Count over to key number 13 and you'll. All right, so let's continue with our reading. That's page 43, and it's the last paragraph in the middle. If you sit down at a piano and hit the lowest key, the very first one on the left, that plays a frequency of 27.5 hertz. That's the frequency of most baleen whale songs. They sing lower than that too, like 20 hertz or 10 hertz, but pianos didn't have a key that played that low. Count over to key number 13 and you'll play 55 hertz, Blue 55's frequency, and the reason he couldn't talk to any other whale. Already I was thinking of a way to reach out to him. At my desk, I grabbed a scrap of paper to jot down some notes. I did not know yet how it would work, but maybe the people who wanted to tag Blue 55 could find a way to sing back to him and hold his attention with something that sounded a bit like himself. As I wrote, I thought came up that crumpled the edges of my plan. As I wrote, a thought came up that crumbled the edges of my plan. Maybe he was like that sei whale on the beach, except that he'd found a way to survive. On the sanctuary's post about Blue 55's communication, I scanned the comments section to see if anyone wondered the same thing I had. No one suggested it yet, so I scrolled back up and left a comment. Maybe the whale is deaf. All right, we leave you here, and I'm sure you're excited for chapter 9. Stay tuned. Bye.